Well, 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 would you look at what I have here? The ZHIYUN Cinepeer Weebill 3E. Man, this thing is small. The gimbal that's small in your hand, just like a piece of paper. It's the same size as a piece of paper, but it packs a punch big enough to carry a full-frame mirrorless camera and do professional work. Now that's what I'm talking about. And it's small enough to fit in my pocket. Eyes up here, buddy. What's up? My name's ZHIYUN, wedding photographer and photo video educator. I've been working with the ZHIYUN Cinepeer Weebill 3E for about 3 weeks now, and let me tell you, this is a small but very powerful gimbal. It very easily handles my full frame mirrorless camera. Coming in at just 2.23 pounds or 1,010 grams, this thing is pretty light, and it has a payload of 6.6 pounds or 3 kilograms? This thing's like a little ant that could lift 3 times its own body weight. I must say, I absolutely love the size of this thing. Even with the legs attached, it is so much smaller than my gimbal that I was currently using. Look at the size difference. This is my current gimbal, the DJI Ronin S. Yeah, it's the original one. You know, the clunky one that doesn't lock. It does this every time you want to transport it anywhere. God, that's annoying. But listen, it still did a great job, and I didn't see any reason to upgrade. Until ZHIYUN reached out to me asking if I wanted to try out their new gimbal that they had. I was like, you know what? Sure, I'll give it a shot. I'll see what it's all about, see if it can replace my current gimbal. Now, I know a lot of other gimbals have had this technology for a while now, but man, I hate this. Having the motors locked is something that I did not realize I needed in my life. That is so much nicer than that. Now this gimbal is so small and so powerful with a ton of features packed into it, but the real question is, how does it actually perform? Well, I had the opportunity to shoot several different things with this gimbal in the last couple weeks. So I obviously had to do some testing around the house. And you know that means, if you watched my channel before, I gotta get my dog Buddy involved. So he was clearly my obvious first model that I had to test this out on before I brought it out on a paid job. I had the opportunity to do some content creation for a fellow YouTuber that had some sponsor obligations that he needed to film for. So I did a couple promo videos for him with this as well. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I'm gonna include that video that I shot for him at the end of this one. So be sure to check that out. And most importantly, I had the opportunity to use this at a wedding. Now, that is for a whole separate video. So make sure that you check it out. I'll link it above as soon as it comes out. Okay, so what are some of my likes and dislikes about this gimbal? Some of the things that I like about this gimbal right off the bat is the size. It's so small. It fits inside of my camera bag. It's not this big clunky thing hanging off the side of it like my old gimbal. It's something that I didn't realize I needed in my life until it was in my life. I mean, just look how small it is. Like, I can almost cover the whole thing with my hand. Like, that's tiny. And I think the form factor about it alone is what impresses me the most, is that it is such a small gimbal and packs so much power into it. The feature that I think I was the most excited about was having the Bluetooth record button. I mean, I know that what I've been working with has been a little bit older of a gimbal, and right now I'm only looking at what's on the back of my screen, a little tiny screen on my camera, and I really can't wait till I get this into my computer. But this footage looks so smooth. I'm just really enjoying the whole user experience, the fact that I have this Bluetooth button right here to just start recording and stop recording instead of having to push at the camera, and then it always jerks the motors, and the motor's like, I don't like that, you're pushing the button too hard. It's just really convenient, feels good in my hand, and I have pretty big hands. Being able to just quickly sync it up to whatever camera body was on the gimbal, because I was shooting with my R5 and R6 on this gimbal, and then just hitting the record button on the gimbal to start and stop it. Another thing that I absolutely love about this gimbal is how easy and quick it is to go from shooting horizontal to shooting vertical. And you don't have to buy any additional brackets or attachments to do so. It's all included with this gimbal. I'm gonna show you in real time just how easy it is. All you have to do is loosen one of these lock brackets on the back, slide it out, I'm gonna hit our release. Ooh, almost dropped the camera there. This is why I usually do it on a table. Slide it on, lock it in, and we're shooting vertical. What did that take? Maybe 10 seconds? It would have been less if I didn't almost drop my camera, but we're good to go. I will note that, yeah, it does take a little bit of rebalancing, but the fact that you can switch it super easily, rebalance it in about 10 to 20 seconds once you know how to balance the camera pretty well, and you're shooting in less than a minute, going from shooting horizontal to vertical. Makes it super convenient, especially if you're shooting like real estate, where you have to shoot your traditional video for MLS, but then you also need to shoot some of the horizontal video for the real estate agent to post on social media platforms. I love this feature of how quickly you can make that transition from horizontal to vertical. Another thing that really impressed me about this gimbal is just how smooth it is. I was doing a full sprint with this gimbal, chasing my dog and filming this YouTuber on a skateboard. And I have some behind the scenes footage to show you as well. And let me tell you, it blew me away when I first looked at that footage in camera and saw how smooth it was. I'm like, no way that this is going to be smooth. I'm gonna have to do some stabilization and post-processing, and it's gonna require a little bit of work to really smooth it out. But I was wrong. Look at this. I know they say that it has updated algorithms to help smooth out the footage, but what exactly does that mean? Now, we don't have the ability to go and talk to the engineers, but I will tell you this. You can absolutely suck at using a gimbal and it's still gonna look good. I mean, I was running as fast as I could while holding this gimbal at about knee height, and this footage still came out this smooth. It's saying something, at least for me, because I have crazy shaky hands. Even if I'm shooting with one of my cameras with the in-body image stabilization and a wide-angle lens that has image stabilization built into it, and I'm being as smooth as I possibly can, you're still gonna see a lot of jitters when I'm using a camera. I just have shaky hands. I don't even know why. I don't even take that much caffeine. But when I put this camera on this gimbal in my hands, I was like, this is something I've never seen before. Is it some kind of magic? Is it wizardry? Who knows? I don't know. Another nice little feature that I didn't even realize I was missing out on is this little LCD screen here on the back. It just gives you a nice little heads-up display of what mode I'm in, what my camera settings are if you have it set up that way, and the ability to shoot with the Bluetooth connection. It's just really convenient because my old gimbal is just a bunch of blinking lights, and I never remembered what those blinking lights meant. And these buttons that you have all over the gimbal are customizable. I was actually setting up the dial on the front here to control my aperture on my camera, which was a really nice feature because then I didn't have to actually touch the camera. What's cool is if we go into the menus here, I can go down to my wheel function, which is the little wheel that I have here in the front, and I can change that to all these different options. So I could select my aperture, my shutter, my ISO, the pitch, the roll, the yaw, or we could just have it off. So when it's connected with the cable, I can actually control my aperture, which is a nice little convenient thing there. So I just programmed my little dial right here in the front to be my aperture, and I made it really convenient when I was shooting that skating video because the sun kept going in and out of the clouds and I had to keep adjusting my settings. So we covered all the likes. Now, some of the things that I don't love about it. The legs. When these legs are pushed together, if I squeeze them hard, they move around in my hand a little bit, and it just didn't feel super secure when I was shooting underslung. I love this low angle shooting that I can do, nice and easy with it too. It's just holding focus. It's nice and light. I will say that this grip's a little bit slippery. I wish I had a little bit more grip on it. I don't know how safe I feel with just holding my $4,000 camera this low to the ground. But whatever, that's what insurance is for, right? Now they say that you get 16 hours of battery life out of it. And let's be honest, when it comes to any electronic, do you ever get the battery life that is claimed? That battery life is in the ideal perfect shooting situation. That battery life for your cell phone is not true. That battery life on your new electric vehicle is not actually true unless you are going downhill the entire time with the wind at your back. So let's be real. Battery life claims, they're talking about ideal situations. And in ideal situations, they're claiming 16 hours for this. And I'll tell you what, they sent it to me. Full disclosure, didn't even charge it. Just came to me at 3 bars out of the 4. So was it at 75%? Was it at 68%? I don't know. It was about 3/4 of the way charged. And I shot for about 9 hours with Bluetooth enabled the entire time before it finally died. So I must say, if this was fully charged, this would absolutely last an entire wedding day. So while the battery life may not be 100% of what they claim, it's still pretty darn good, and it's more than enough to get me through an entire wedding day. Plus, when I did shoot the wedding with it, because I started that wedding with it less than 50%, during cocktail hour, I did put the camera down. I got my cell phone charger out because it's also USB-C, super convenient for charging. And I just plugged it into the wall and I left it charging over at the corner of the room for about a half an hour when I was in cocktail hour. So I'd have to see if I didn't have Bluetooth enabled the entire time and if maybe I was using a lighter camera, maybe the gimbal would last a little bit longer. But for me, in my experience, at 3 out of the 4 bars on the little battery indicator on the back, I got about 9 hours out of it. So take that as you want, but it's pretty good. And I'm gonna put this into my dislikes of the gimbal, but I'm gonna have a little asterisk next to it, okay? Because one of the dislikes is I tried it with my 28-70. That's my favorite Canon lens that I have right now, the RF 28-70 f2. Awesome lens. Now, they said in the manual that that lens does not work on this gimbal, but I tried it anyway. And unfortunately, they were right. I should have listened to them. I really tried to make that gimbal work. I tried using some of the brackets and plates that I have here, but I looked at the numbers on paper, and on paper, it can support the weight. The problem is the lens is just a little bit too big for this gimbal. You can't balance the camera and then still have the ability to move the camera around without hitting the motors. So that's where you kind of have that little bit of a trade-off. It's a super small gimbal and that's a huge lens, so it doesn't have the ability to balance it with that lens on there. Is it a deal breaker? No. I just shot with my prime lenses, which are fully supported, and my RF 15-35, which is also supported, and I was able to very easily do my entire job.
I mean, this is pretty impressive how stable it's staying. Basically running backwards. Hopefully I don't fall. Good job.
So if you're looking at ZHIYUN gimbals and maybe you're considering this one versus the Weebill 3S, there are a couple differences. For starters, on the 3S, you do have a built-in microphone and that little light that goes right here, and they took that out. Helps reduce the size and the overall weight of the gimbal. You do have one USB-C port over here on the side that allows you to connect it to the camera so you can control some of the camera settings right from the customizable wheels on the gimbal itself. Also, being that it is a smaller gimbal, they do remove the lens support bracket, so there's only just one bracket now that you have to worry about putting on your camera, which could be a good thing if you're trying to keep it as minimal as possible. So let's talk about price. This comes in at $249 in the United States. If you're in another country, I don't know the conversions, do it yourself. But check this out. Until July 7th, ZHIYUN is running a 10% off sale on this gimbal, which will save you some money. But even better, they gave me a 10% discount code for you. So check it out in the description below. I'm gonna save you an additional 10% on the sale they're already running, bringing this gimbal down to only $199. That is a absolute steal. Less than 200 bucks for this gimbal that I will confidently use on professional paid jobs. If you're in the market for a small light gimbal that can do professional work, just go get one. That's all I gotta say. Just go get it. I don't have anything else to tell you. Maybe you want to buy a different brand, but you're gonna pay more. That's up to you. So like I said, use that code down below, save yourself some money. You're welcome.
See, what's pretty nice about when I get to use my dog as a model, he just walks away all the time. So I'm in the middle of recording some B-roll for you guys, and I gotta turn around and realize he's 50 feet away from me. But it's okay, he's like the most friendly dog ever. And if you ever see me out recording anywhere, and you see my dog, his name's Buddy, and he loves people. So come up and say hi to him, please.
You might be asking, who's this gimbal good for? I'm gonna say right off the bat, obviously content creators. Content creators are usually trying to travel as light as possible. They're not doing these big elaborate paid shoots. And I think that this gimbal can handle most cameras that most content creators are using. I would say this is a great option for anybody that's shooting real estate because the ability to switch between horizontal and vertical shooting so quickly. If you're into real estate videography or photography right now, you know so many agents are asking for those short vertical videos. So having the ability to quickly switch as you're going from room to room, so you don't have to shoot the whole house once and then go back with a vertical camera and shoot it all again, it just makes your life a little bit easier. And I can confidently say that this is good for anybody that's shooting a wedding. The reason being is because it's so light. When you're shooting a wedding, you're talking about 9, 10, 12-hour days, sometimes longer. And this being so light, it's not gonna fatigue you nearly as fast. I'm able to hold this camera out fully extended with one arm, and I could stand here for a good, I don't know, 30 seconds. Just worked out my chest the other day. It's already starting to hurt.
We're gonna pretend we're vloggers for a second, okay? Let's vlog. So as you see, Buddy here is a very cooperative model. He just loves having the camera pointing at him and just does the best job ever, right, Buddy? Sniff the mic. What does that smell like? It smells like a dead cat, huh? That's what they used to call these things. It's a dead cat. You're doing a good job. It's, you know, and for such a small gimbal, the fact that I'm holding out this large camera right now with one hand, and it's not that heavy, but because it's such a small gimbal, it just feels good in the hand. Now I have a 35mm lens on here, so this probably isn't ideal for pointing this out at my camera. So if we switch over to that camera, you can see that my arm's fully extended and you're just getting my face. It's a little close and personal for me, but you know, we're on that level now, right? Appreciate you.
But this gimbal is not gonna fatigue you after a really long day of shooting a wedding. So if you're into weddings and you want a light gimbal that can get the job done, check this one out. So maybe you're gonna ask me, Jay, do you plan on keeping this and continue using it for paid work, or are you gonna look for something else? And I'm confidently gonna tell you right now, you're damn right I'm keeping it. This will be my gimbal of choice for quite some time. It is so light and so small and able to handle all my cameras. The only gripe I had, like I said earlier, is if it could handle my 28-70. This would be the perfect gimbal if it could handle that lens as well. But you know what? It's not a deal breaker for me because I don't shoot that much video with that lens anyway.
Special shout out here to my wife who's been doing the behind the scenes for this little segment of testing this out. And fun fact, my wife's a teacher and a lot of her students like to watch my YouTube videos. So if any of you are watching, I think Miss L is gonna shout you out real quick.
Hi, room 23.
I love having a gimbal that's so small that it fits in my pocket. No more big clunky gimbal for me. Yeah. And don't forget to check out part 2. I'll put it in the description below as soon as it comes out, where I take the Weebill Cinepeer 3E to a wedding and we really see how it performs at a paid gig. Now, as promised, check out this promo video that I helped out a fellow YouTuber shoot for one of his sponsors. And until next time, peace.
Over the edge, feel like I'm floating through the air. The pain I felt is paid for, all is said and done. Oh, I am restricted, fixed upon the web. I need to kick the habit that my mind is breathing